So we're joined now by CDN editors Patrick Ian Perez and Josh McMorrow Hernandez. Guys, what thoughts did you have about the interview?
Well, number one, I love anytime talking to Halperin, whether it's in person or an interview, because he's so genuine. He doesn't hide anything. He just kind of says what's on his mind, and he's very authentic in that way. But two things stood out to me right away, both kind of towards the end of the interview. And the first one I loved is that he said, "I've never had a job," which is
I love that part too.
Which is cool because obviously he's a guy who probably has a million things to do each week, but
right,
in his mind he's doing something that he loves.
Right. No one told him it was a job. I wanted to tell him, by the way, you have a job.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was really cool because for the past 10 years I've kind of felt the same way, being a full-time numismatist. So, and secondly, when he was talking about collecting strategies and focusing on a specific series of coins, I like that he emphasized that learning is the best part. Not making money or not not even maybe completing a whole collection. He just said learning is the best part, and so that was really cool because I kind of view collecting the same way, and I think that's overlooked a lot. So I really enjoyed that. Josh, what did you think?
Yeah, and it's funny, Patrick, it's the same 2 points stand out to me, actually. First thing, as Jim mentioned, of course you do too, I have been now in numismatics for about 8 or 10 years, and I've put in probably 80 hours or more behind the computer each week, but not 1 hour feels like work to me. I really love what I do, and it's because in part I don't feel like I'm really going to work. I'm doing what my passion is, and that is to write and to study about coins, write about coins, so absolutely feel like I can relate to that comment all the way. But the second point, and I'll delve into the mention of taking a series, taking an area of the hobby, and studying it very well. He mentioned, I believe he mentioned that many die varieties are under-researched and undervalued. And those who really study an area, be it Lincoln cents or be it 3-cent trimes or whatever it is, if you really dive into each crevice of that series, you can learn so much about that area of the hobby and become a true expert in it. I remember a while back I wrote a piece about trimes for CDN here and spoke to Kevin Flynn. And he is a 2-cent, 3-cent piece expert, and he was talking the same way. He says, he loves to study the varieties and get into it because it gives him an advantage over dealers and many other folks. And so anybody who takes time to study the area that speaks to them most and become a true expert in it can be able to have a really great time in the hobby.
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it actually surprised me that he gave that answer, but not at all in hindsight. I'm glad he did. I just knowing Jim, I didn't think that he would talk about the specificity of learning specific series or even die varieties so much. The only caveat I would have there is that sometimes the die variety specialists can get so far into their hobby and not realize that no one else cares. And then you do have to apply that theory if you hope to get your money back out of your coin investment. Is you don't want to go beyond where anybody else ever is in terms of you have to have a following behind you eventually.
And John, I love that quote too that Jim gave about an empty bourse floor. I might maybe kind of paraphrasing here, but an empty auction floor is a good sign in their particular case, meaning that the internet really has for them. They've capitalized on it, and now people can bid from wherever they want to. And I guess it typifies really where we're going in the hobby today. I mean, the internet really is the future,
and it saves on the catering bill too. Sorry, Patrick.
No, I was just that was a very interesting comment because you read some of the older numismatic writers and they kind of lament the fact that a public auction room is empty. I think the only exceptions recently were a few of the Pogue sales where there was a fair amount of people in the room, but for Heritage to see, for Halperin and Heritage to see that as he called it, a badge of honor, was really cool because and it does make a lot of sense because it emphasizes the trust that people have in Heritage.
Right.
And I like that. And I see a lot of parallels with that with CDN as far as, our most important, mandate is for people to trust our information.
Correct. In the stone sale recently, the Sotheby's auction of the stone collection, I'm not sure it's a badge of honor for Sotheby's. I'm sure they would have liked to have a busier room, being a boutique auction house, as it were, for a coin collection. It's not their normal genre, but I was told there was only a handful of people in the room as well, and of course just about every lot sold for a record number for what it would, for that particular item. So it does, right, the number of people in the room is no longer relevant. What's relevant is that people trust the auction house and give their highest bids, or whether it's phone or internet. In Heritage's case, I think they have really inspired people to leave those internet bids more than anything. So you see Sotheby's, you might see a bank of 20 people on in the corral there. At Heritage, you don't really see that. You might have a couple guys on phones, but mostly people are very comfortable putting the bids on the internet, and that's enabled them to grow and have all these different auctions. They have auctions in all these different categories and venues and genres, whether it's art or ball cards or posters and things like that. And because the internet is so all-encompassing for them, they don't have to have 100 people on staff to handle those phone bids, which it's really cumbersome when you do. You'd rather, these days you'd rather bid on the internet.
Plus, I think the actual bidding interface is so important. I mean, there's a lot of auction companies that have quote live online bidding, but the interface is so poor,
right?
It almost makes you not want to do it. Whereas Heritage is very very advanced with the image and the live video and all that type of stuff. So it's really great.
Yeah, no, they've done a great job, and that's it was a fun interview, and I'm looking forward to do even more interviews. We had great success with John Albany's interview from CAC in our last podcast, and I'm sure Jim's going to be really popular, and can't wait to get some other numismatic luminaries on there. We've got Mark Salzberg on deck, and numerous other people. Scott Travers is interested in doing coming here to our offices and doing a podcast interview. So lots of great things coming, and we're going to keep it rolling.